What's up, y'all? Welcome back to another rendition of Studying Cinema with Cozy. I'm your host, Jamal Hollywood, and today we will be reviewing what I feel like is one of the more slept on films that I've seen recently, and that is The Blackening, directed by Tim Story. The Blackening is a film directed by Tim Story, starring a group of black individuals who mostly to me are unknown, some of which I do know from TV shows or movies. To name a few, Melvin Gregg or Yvonne Orji. I know them from Snowfall and Insecure, but the rest of the cast, they're pretty new to me, and I still feel like even with the newness and the unknowingness, they still deliver a good performance, a great performance I should say, and great chemistry between the cast. You know, the dynamic that you see within the friend group throughout the film is one of the better parts, if not the best part of the film. The way they're able to bounce off of each other, whether it be jokes or, scary moments or, dramatic moments. Everything in between, I feel like the dynamic between the characters are real fluid and really grasp the essence of friendship and, nuance in the relationship between black individuals from all different backgrounds, I should say. The story is about a group of friends who come together for a college get-together, college reunion, I should say. A bunch of college friends who haven't seen each other in, some time, and they plan a cabin trip. Yvonne's character, named Morgan, she spearheads the, whole planning for the cabin trip. Her and her boyfriend arrive early, and Morgan and her boyfriend, they stumble upon a board game that appears, kind of racist and throws them off a bit. The game is called The Blackening. In the middle of the board game is if you ever seen those old caricatures of black people or people in blackface, that's what the, image in the middle of the board is. And they play this game answering a lot of questions based off of black culture and blackness in a sense. And they don't take it serious when the game says that they will die or get killed if they don't answer the question. After, a little jibber jabber back and forth and not answering the question, ultimately, Yvonne's boyfriend ends up getting killed and she ends up getting, kidnapped by this man, this unknown man, I should say, leaving the rest of the friend group to wonder where her and her boyfriend are when they arrive to the cabin. We're introduced to these characters in different scenes, and we get to see their different personalities individually and also how they come together as a whole. And in the film, before the real beats of the horror elements start playing out in the film, we get to see the dynamic between the friend group. And like I said earlier, that's really the best part of the film, is the dynamic with the friend group and the chemistry that they have with each other. You get to see how these different characters also, they really do seem like they're genuine friends before this trip is held, despite them not knowing one of the characters in the film, which is kind of something that comes back around in the end of the film. The character of Clifton not being, one of the ones that's closer with the rest of the friend group. He gets invited to the cabin trip and, embarks on a whole college reunion. As you may know, if you have seen the film or if you haven't seen the film, the friend group does stumble upon the fact that, Morgan and her boyfriend are no longer there. They stumble upon the board game and get caught into playing the game. This is where we see them answering the questions and making sure that they do everything in their power to make sure that they get the best outcome for themselves and for Morgan. Not knowing who's at charge of this or how it's going on, they're just doing everything that they can to make sure that they get the best outcome. Throughout the film, we see the journey that these characters go on, the highs and lows, and how they're able to deal with everything that's thrown at them, all of the obstacles that they have to overcome. I really personally enjoyed this film. I didn't see this film when it first came out, but coming around to it now, I feel like I kind of slipped on this film at first, honestly. To me, it personally got better as the film went on. I really did enjoy the suspense that was thrown in there. The nature of the blackness that's displayed in the film from all of the characters through their personalities, I feel like it was real balanced. I feel like there were some moments where they teetered with, overdoing some of the things that kind of showcase blackness in a sense. But the most important part of it all is the fact that they didn't make a mockery of black people in this film. With the title and the whole characterization of black people in horror films, it's easy to fall into that mockery or that falling on that thin line of, showcasing black people in a way that wouldn't be received well, in a sense. And I feel like this film does exactly what it needs to do. It turns out to be a very entertaining movie that I feel like can be enjoyed by any demographic, any age range. I feel like for black culture, it's good to have movies like this to kind of take it a step back from the drama or the real life shock traumatic experiences that are showcased in films about black culture. This movie is an offset from that and dives into, black people being themselves in a movie that isn't necessarily a black film driven by historical traumatic events or things of that nature, if that makes sense. A lot of black films about black culture fall into the line of drug dealing, slavery, or things that kind of are the forefront for the traumatic things that make up black culture and who and what black people are to the outside world, versus really just showcasing who black people are independently as individuals and showing that there are more than one version of us, you feel me? Whether that be gay, straight, tall, short, light skin, brown skin, dark skin, it's okay to show different types of black people other than the type of black people that Hollywood is consistently portraying in the media. In the end, I do feel like with Halloween being here and it being the fall season and it being the season of, families getting together and whatnot, this is one of those films that you could throw on with your family or friends and, really enjoy and laugh at and just kick back and relax to. It's not one of those films that's harboring on the traumas of black people. It's one of those films that kind of celebrates the individualism and the essence and the eccentric element of black people. With that being said, I do want to make sure I highlight the fact that this cast, to me, a lot of these cast members weren't relatively, familiar faces. So I do want to kind of shine light on the fact that I feel like the casting of this film was perfectly done. And I want to see more films with new faces, new black faces, and in a way that's not, repetitive with what we've seen in films that's kind of pushed by people that aren't made by us. I also want to add that, spoiler warning for anybody that hasn't seen the movie, but with the ending playing out the way that it did and, finding out that Clifton is the one that's behind everything that's been going on the whole night, and his reasoning for that being basically revolved around him not being black enough, it being revolved around him feeling like he wasn't black enough ever since the past event that had happened in their college life, and him holding on to that and defining his personality and what he stood for based off of that, especially with what had happened with that whole story, with that whole backstory while they were in college. It really sheds light on what is blackness in a sense in today's modern world and how we define black culture, and how the definition of black culture can make even black people feel excluded from that based off of their characteristics, how they move, or the things they say, or not knowing certain things that other black people may know. Different things like that can kind of shape or alter somebody's mindset growing up in a black space and wanting to feel included and wanting to just be themselves without having to be judged on a scale about whether they're black enough, depending on what they're into socially or personally. And with that being said, I really do feel like at the end of the day, this movie does a good job of representing all different types of black people and showing that there are different types of black people out there other than just the stereotypes that we see pushed by the media. And with this movie being made up of a cast that isn't necessarily familiar to the everyday audience, it's good to see new faces take on these roles to really show the relatability in these films and to give the audience insight on what it is that these characters really represent in the real world, and doing a good job of that without making a mockery of, you know, the culture that it's representing. With that being said, I do want to thank you guys for tuning into this episode of Studying Cinema with Cozy. Let me know what you guys want me to review next, and make sure you guys subscribe, like, share the video, and see you guys on the next one.